Hey, what's up, everybody? All right, today I'm going to be doing a quick lineup review over week 15 of the NFL football season. And it was a great week for me. Actually, my best week of the year as far as daily fantasy goes. It could have been a lot better, but we'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, taking a look right here at the SPY, it's a $100 entry, single entry, one lineup, of course. And we ended up taking 97th place, which got us a net of $400, so profit of 300. But let's take a look at this lineup. This was my main team that I went with. Quarterback, we had Deshaun Watson, who finished with 243 pass yards and 2 touchdowns. And I was watching that game. He actually threw 2 interceptions in the end zone. So you never know what could have happened with that. Of course, he could have had at least one more touchdown, maybe two. Probably could have finished the game with with 4 pass touchdowns, which would have gave us a total of about 25 to 30 points. But overall, not a bad game. 18 points. Not his best game. Kind of like a floor game for him. But overall, I was okay with that. Saquon Barkley, pretty chalky on the week. 31% owned. Finished with his best game of the season. Ended up with 33 fantasy points. And as you can see, he's been struggling pretty much all year. He did have a 28-point game against Detroit, which was back in week 8. But yeah, he ended up with 112 yards on the ground with 2 touchdowns, and also added 31 yards through the air on 4 catches on 5 targets. So 33 points for Saquon Barkley. And following that was Chris Carson, who was even more chalky at 46% owned. So almost half of the field owned Chris Carson in this lineup. He finished the day with 2 rushing touchdowns, and he did have 133 yards rushing with only 4 receiving yards with 1 catch, but he's not really a receiving back. And I figured he would be a little less owned just because he doesn't catch too many passes. But, with their injury to Rashad Penny, obviously he was going to get a little more of the workload. And they got a lead and really weren't really using him like I thought they would in the first half. But then in the second half, he did get his carry. So a season high fantasy point total for him. And receivers, I went with Danny Amendola against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I know a lot of people were on Kenny Golladay with the injury to Marvin Jones, but I figured that they would kind of be doubling him a little bit, and Tampa Bay struggles against a slot receiver, and Amendola can put up good numbers, which he ended up doing yesterday. He put up 102 yards, which he got that 100-yard bonus on like the very last drive. He just needed 1 catch. And he finished with 8 catches for 102 yards and 21 total fantasy points, which was his best since week 7. So he's been kind of quiet lately. Didn't even think he would be 13% owned, but I guess a majority of the field was on him as well. Terry McLaurin was only 5% owned. I needed a cheap receiver. And, we target Philly a lot, especially with the top receiving target on the opposing team. Even with Dwayne Haskins at quarterback, obviously they have a Ohio State connection. And Terry McLaurin, who broke that 70-yard touchdown early, finished with 130 receiving yards on 5 catches and a touchdown, finishing with 27 fantasy points, which I believe. No, he did have a 29. I was going to say that was his season high, his career high. But 27 overall. It was a 75-yard touchdown. He was only $5,300. Pretty cheap going against the Philly team. I figured they'd be having to pass a lot. So that worked out. And then our other receiver was Sterling Shepard, who also hit the 100-yard bonus. So all 3 of our receivers hit the 100-yard bonus. Danny Amendola didn't catch a touchdown, and Sterling Shepard didn't even catch a touchdown, but he had 9 catches and finished with 111 receiving yards, giving him 23 fantasy points at only 2% owned. Slot receivers against the Dolphins have been uh, a nice spot to target them against, which was his. Uh, he finished with 11 targets, which was his most on the year. And like I said, 23 fantasy points. Obviously, he's been dealing with some concussion issues, but nothing in his legs or anything like that. So he was good to go. So I put him in just about everything. He was pretty chalky for me. Forgot what his price was. Let me look again. His price was 5,400, so pretty cheap for his target volume. Tight end is where it kind of went wrong for me. I chose Ian Thomas just because I wanted the savings. I know Tyler Higbee was obviously a great play, but 24% owned on Ian Thomas, who I didn't play last week, and it hurt me. Uh, but yeah, only 4 points on 2 receptions for 23 yards. I thought he would get a little more work, but unfortunately, that was the only guy that really hurt this lineup. As you can see, the lineup looked really good overall. Todd Gurley had a horrible game, but somehow managed to finish with 20 fantasy points, only 20 yards rushing on 11 carries, giving him an average of 1.8 yards per carry. Caught 3 passes on 7 targets for 18 yards and did get into the end zone twice, so that's what saved us. And at the very end of the game, uh, a meaningless touchdown. And then he got the 2-point conversion, which gave him an extra 2 points, giving him 20 points on the day. It looked like he was going to be a bust for me, but he came through. He was 31% owned. I was hoping he'd be a little less owned than that. But overall, he ended up doing all right for me at $6,000. Put the Patriots defense in. I know a lot of people pay down at defense, but I figured that the Patriots would get back to their old self against the Cincinnati team, which they did. They had 4 interceptions, a defensive fumble recovery, and 1 touchdown, which was that Stephon Gilmore pick 6. And they finished with 20 fantasy points against the Cincinnati Bengals at 13% owned. Yeah, I didn't think they would be that high on. I figured everybody would pay down, especially in the snow game. I thought everybody would go for the Chiefs and the Broncos, which I almost switched to. I'm glad I didn't switch to the Broncos. But they finished with 20 points. Obviously, they've been struggling the past few weeks, and they did get back to their old self like they were at the beginning of the year. So, yeah, this lineup was really nice. 198.32 overall points, finished 97th overall. And like I said, we ended up winning 400 out of this $100 entry. Moving on to the play action. I maxed out the play action. $3 entry, you get 20 entry max, so that's a $60 total. Take a look at my best overall lineup. On the whole slate was this Baker Mayfield lineup, a naked Baker Mayfield lineup. He was only 4% owned. He finished with 17, so coming just under Deshaun Watson's total. Still had Saquon, still had Chris Carson, Amendola. I went with A.J. Brown, who finished with 28 points against the Texans. He's having some great weeks lately. He's going to be a star in this league for a while. Chris Conley was a good value play. I'm surprised he was only 9% owned. He was pretty much min price. I think he was 3.6 overall. Outside receivers against Oakland is someone I like to target. Unfortunately, I didn't put him in the spy, but I did have him in a few lineups in the play action. Tyler Higbee, as I said, was pretty much the play. I should have played him in the spy. Unfortunately, I went with Ian Thomas. He finished with 26 points overall, 111 yards receiving on 12 catches. So he's been used heavily in this passing attack. Tight ends against Dallas is a good way to go. Of course, they play Philly this week, so Zach Ertz will be on a lot of people's radars. And then Devontae Parker was in my flex. He had 2 touchdowns on 72 yards receiving and 4 catches. This lineup had a total of 220 points, 220.78. and it finished 1,070th, which in this one is not too bad. It netted a total of $25, which, like I said, is a $3 entry. So this was my best lineup on the slate. Let's take a look at my worst lineup just for kicks. Let's look at my worst lineup. This is something I like to do just to see. It was a Jimmy G stack. Looks like a Jimmy G, Emmanuel Sanders, and Kittle stack. Emmanuel Sanders was pretty much a bust on the day, only 2 catches for 9 yards. Did have Gurley. I put CJ Prostice in here just to, just hoping he might bust one as a backup. I knew he was going to get some work. He had 10 receiving yards, 15 rush yards, nothing too crazy, 3 points. DeAndre Hopkins finished with 20. Emmanuel Sanders with 2. D.D. Westbrook only had 4. Of course, Chris Conley, as we saw, was the breakout of that offense. George Kittle did have 29, so a good game for him overall. And Darius Slayton, who I really liked a lot, but I liked Sterling Shepard a lot more. In this lineup, I went with him. He had 2 catches, did get a touchdown, finished with 11 points, and I did have the Patriots defense across the board, so that helped the lineup out a lot. But 125 points total. Yeah, luckily this wasn't in my spy lineup, but yeah, that was my worst lineup on the day. And if we go to the Millionaire Maker, I did play. This was my spy lineup. Same thing here. Ended up winning $50. It was a $20 entry, so we did a little better than double on that one. Overall, we netted about, I think it was $453 total. I did play the $1 max too. I just entered the same lineups I did in $3, so nice little profit there. By far, well, I won't say by far, but definitely my best week of the year so far, which isn't saying much. I've been struggling kind of lately. I don't know. I've been going against the grain a little bit. I'll have the right lineups and then I'll switch something at the end and I'll be really tilted. This week I didn't really switch anything. Kind of went with my gut, especially on the receivers. Yeah, it doesn't look very pretty on paper sometimes. You look at the Amendola play, the Shepherd and stuff like that. Sometimes it doesn't look pretty on paper and it makes you want to switch. But yeah, just go with your gut, man. Play the good plays, the good matchups that you think are gonna go off, and yeah, you just gotta go with your gut sometimes. But I hope you enjoyed this quick lineup review. I'll do another one next weekend. Hopefully, we can have the same result, if not better. And yeah, thank you for watching this video. Thank you for supporting the channel. If you haven't already, go check out that giveaway that I did a couple videos ago. I'm gonna be announcing the winner tomorrow. And yeah, we'll do some more sports related videos as well. Tyler J Sports is coming soon. I wasn't gonna say anything, but Tyler J Sports will be coming soon. Gonna expand the channel a little bit. I'll talk more about that in a special video. But thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting this channel, and we'll see you next time.